All right, today's podcast is going to be short and sweet, and it's also going to be a question from a listener. Sherry asks specifically, Sherry Layton says, in addition to our Roth IRAs, what else should be maxing out annually? Our net income is about $160,000 per year. I'm just going to say that's your gross income for the sake of this conversation because I don't know what your gross income is. But the framework that I share today with you is going to be based on gross income. So as we work through this framework and I explain it, let's just assume gross income being 160, because I would assume net income means you own a business, which makes things a little more, a little different. So when we think about a framework from an investment standpoint, just remember that this is general. And so, Sherry, I don't know your whole situation. I just know the question that you asked me. And that question could be very different for a lot of different people for various different reasons. Your risk profile, your age, your timeline, your goals, all those types of things you want to consider in your financial situation. But I'm going to walk you through a framework that anybody listening to this can apply today. And I'm going to walk you through that framework, but also take that 160,000 gross income in this example and actually use the numbers to show you how this would actually turn out for the person that's making this, this type of income. So first things first, there's no one size fits all. And always remember that. However, if I were to use a default option, here's how I would consider it. So I think of a default option as like an ideal scenario and then some add-on options depending on the situation. So ideal scenario, pretty much applicable to most people. I would say there's an employer-sponsored plan at play. Maybe that's a 401k, maybe a 403b, maybe a 457b, maybe a TSP. Thank you for your service if you're in the military. And then also a Roth or traditional IRA, and then a taxable brokerage account. So if you have those three accounts, that would be a traditional, everyday American type of situation. There are add-on options, and depending on your situation, these might be at play, and they do show up actually in our framework, which I'll show you in a second. So our add-on options would be an HSA, solo 401k, SEP IRA, ESPP, ESOP, RSUs, cryptocurrency, and also child accounts like a 529, an UMA, a taxable brokerage, a Roth IRA. So those are some add-on options that you want to consider in your situation. Now, when I think about the priority of investment accounts, when I think of those investment accounts, I'm going to walk you through the exact framework, but let's walk through and think about this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my income, my gross income. In Sherry's situation is 160,000. I'm going to take 160,000. I'm going to multiply it by 15%. That gives me my baseline for my retirement side of things. Anything above and beyond that 15% that I'm able to save, which we'll kind of do a example here, then I want to put that towards other types of accounts as well. Now, again, I don't know if 15% is enough for retirement or if it's too much or if it's too little. It depends on the situation or what your goals are, like I said. So this is just a generalized framework that you could start out and think about. So the priority of investment accounts, it's a 6-step framework that I'll share. And then once we understand the 6 steps, I'm going to walk into Sherry's $160,000 example and apply these 6 steps to show you the actual numbers. So the first thing I want to do is get the match at my 401k, 403b, 457, TSP, whatever. I want to make sure I guarantee I get that match. This is a 100% return on your money. If I put in X dollars in my company rewards me with X dollars back. There is nothing like that. Get the match without question. Now, I often get a question from people saying, if my company doesn't give me the match, should I invest in my 401k? The short answer is yes. The more complicated answer is that is a cherry on the top. So when they give you a match, that's just an extra bonus. And so we want to take advantage of it if they give it to you. But if they don't, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't want to use the 401k, but you have to understand the pros and cons of the 401k before using it. So there's more nuance to that answer. But just to think about that, because a lot of people ask, hey, I don't get a match, so should I skip number 1 here? Definitely consider all things about the 401k before just skipping it. Now, we'll wrap this back in number 4 for the 401k. But in number 1, if you don't get the match, you would just skip this step. That doesn't mean, like I said in step 4, you would just ignore the 401k entirely, but you wouldn't have anything to match 1 for 1. Number 2 is a company ESPP with a guaranteed discount. Now, this isn't always applicable to most people, but sometimes you get people that have worked for a big tech company and they have an employee stock purchase plan that you can guarantee discount of 10% or 15%. And they're able to, invest X percentage of their paycheck into that, and you get a guaranteed discount. So sometimes this is applicable, but for the sake of this education, podcast, I'm going to skip that today when we walk through Sherry's situation, because I would assume most people don't have that. But that would be number 2. Number 3 would be a Roth or traditional IRA at $7,000 in 2025. Number 4 would be a 401k, 403b, 457 TSP. The remaining to reach 15% of that gross income, like we talked about in the very beginning, the 15% times your gross income. And so that would get you your retirement 1 through 4. On top of that, number 5 would be an HSA, potentially. Depends on the situation. If you have a high deductible health plan, in order to have the HSA, you can max that out at $4,300 per year if you're single in 2025, $8,550 if family in 2025. And then lastly, number 6, a taxable brokerage. My favorite, literally saving our life right now, is just having unlimited cap. There is no limit on a taxable brokerage account. And it's literally saved my family's life with our whole mold and mycotoxin issue, where we lost our house and all of our possessions. And we are able to dip into that if needed to handle all the cash needs, which are right around $300,000 in a month, which were unexpected. But that is the benefit of knowing this, applying this, so that if you're in my situation ever and you've understood the story that we've shared so far, you are protected. So let's walk through Sherry's situation, and then I'm going to also drop you some tips at the end. So $160,000 gross income in this situation. Let's multiply that by 15%, which is $24,000 per year. Now, if you have additional income to save, not just 15%, but let's say 20%, in this situation, she would do 160 times 20% is 32,000. So she could save upward of 32,000 using this existing framework, which is 20% in total. So the first 4 steps are going to be applicable to the 24,000, the 15% of her income. The additional 5% is going to be applicable to everything after that, right? And so if I make $160,000, my first step is to get the match. Let's just say in a theoretical world, we have a 3% match from our company. And again, you have to apply your situation to the framework. But let's say you have a 3% match and you make $160,000. That is $4,800 in step 1. So step 1, check the box, $4,800. Step 2, we're going to skip because that's the company ESP with guaranteed discount, which we assume we don't have. Step 3, we maxed out the Roth or traditional IRA. And again, tax dependent on your situation. I don't know which one's better for you. It depends. Lots of considerations. Number 3 is $7,000 for that. Now, number 4, we would take the remaining and put it into the remaining to get the 15% of your gross income and put it into that 401k account again. And so if I do the math, we have 24,000, essentially the 15% times my income, and I subtract out steps 1 through 3. So the 4,800 in step 1, the 0 in step 2, and the 12,200 in step 3. The 7,000 in step 3. My remaining balance is 12,200 for step 4. And so therefore, I know my 401k is the 4,800 in step 1 and the 12,200 in step 4. And I would combine those at this point in time. This is just a step-by-step math sequence. So now I have the step 1 plus step 4 is my 401k. I have nothing in my ESPP, and my IRA is $7,000. So I know right now, if I were to look at it from an annual perspective, making $160,000 with this framework, my IRA, I'd maxed out at $7,000, and my 401k would be the combination of steps 1 through 4, or 1 and 4, which would be 4,800 plus 12,200, which equals $17,000 on the dot. Now, oftentimes when you go into those various accounts, your IRA, they say, how much money do you want to invest? You would do 7,000 divided by 26 pay periods, whatever that dollar amount is. I'll do it for you right here. Divide that by 26, $269.23 every 2 pay periods, assuming that's when you are going to invest this money. I like to offset my 401ks and my IRAs personally, because I don't like all of my investments to come out every other Friday. I like them to come out every Friday and space those out. And so I do my IRAs on the offsetting Friday of my 401k. So if I were to work a 401 or a W-2 job with a 401k and I got paid the 2nd and the 4th, I would have my IRA come out the 1st and the 3rd personally. That's just my take. Now, you also could do weekly for your IRA, or you could do monthly. It just depends the frequency you want to take that out. I do biweekly. I think it's the easiest. And so that would be $269.23. And then the combination of $17,000 from steps 1 and 4 would actually equal 11% of your pay. So if you take 11% times 160,000, that's to get you to 17,000 roughly. And so in your 401k portal, they don't ask you the dollar amount like they did in the IRA, because this is a actual, your IRA is your individual retirement account. Your 401k is with your employer. It's employer sponsored, like I mentioned. So they're going to say what percentage. So all you would do is take that 17,000 divided by your total income, 160, and you would get 11%. So that would be the 401k and IRA set up for the year, 7,000 and 17,000 respectfully. And then the next step would be number 5, which would be your HSA. And let's just say we are single in this situation. So we have 4150 to invest. I would then max the HSA out without question, which means steps 1 through 5 equal 28,150. But remember, if I take 160,000, my total income, my gross income times 20%, I have 32,000. So the remaining balance to get to 32,000 would be 3,850, which I would put in my taxable brokerage, and I would probably take that on a biweekly or monthly basis, like I said, with the IRA, and just distribute that evenly throughout the year, because these are annual amounts. So 32,000 is annual. If I were to break this down in a nutshell and summarize this for you guys, I would have my IRA, $7,000 per year, $269.23 every 2 weeks. If I were to, and I'm going to do the math real fast on the other two while I'm talking. If I were to do my 401k, I would go into my portal and I would do 11%, which comes out probably biweekly. And that means I would do 17,000 total for the year, which is below the limit for 2025. So you're comfortable there. So your retirement funds together, you're investing $24,000, which we talked about is 15% of 160,000. That's distributed between your IRA and 401k, and that hopefully gets you to retirement. But again, you'd have to do the math to say, does this get me to my retirement, a comfortable retirement, or does it not? My next step is my HSA, which is 4,150, like we talked about. If you do that every 2 weeks, that would be $159.62. And then my brokerage would be the last piece, which would be $3,850 annually. You divide that by 26 pay periods, it's coming out to be $148.08. All of that is $32,000 per year, but it's distributed in even, increments. And so if you want to even look at it further from dollar amount, $269.23 IRA, $653.85 the 401k, $159.62 HSA, $148.08 brokerage. Every 2 weeks, the whole entire year, that comes to 32,000, which equals 20% of your 160,000. You will be set up for a lot of success if you apply this framework. Obviously, it's dependent on your situation. You want to run this framework. You also want to think about how this applies, and that's another conversation. We do help people within Budget Dog Academy. If you want to join Budget Dog Academy, go ahead and apply for a free call with my team in the show notes below. But before we leave, guys, I want to give you some rules of thumb to always follow with your investments that will really help you here. So within these accounts, here are some rules to follow. You always want to choose, obviously, within IRAs, 401ks, HSAs, and brokerage. Those are not investments. Those are investment accounts. And within, internally, you want to choose 1 to 5 index funds and or ETFs and diversify your holdings. Make sure that's always at play. You always want to turn on dividend reinvestment. So as you get paid dividends, they're automatically reinvested. Very important concept here. You want to always set up automatic investments, which I kind of did by showing you the biweekly automatic contributions, dollar amount and percentage potentially with 401ks, but make sure those automatic investments are on. Do not manually do this every week or every 2 weeks. You will be insane and go insane if you do that. And then lastly, don't sell anything until you actually retire or early retire. Selling is going to hurt you. That's also trading. That's not investing. If you want to invest, buy and hold low-cost index funds and or ETFs for the long haul. And that's how you're going to win really, really big long-term. And so with that being said, guys, that is a breakdown of exactly how we use our investing framework here. Universally recognized, universally accepted. And I hope that number breakdown helps you, Sherry, specifically. But if you're listening to this out there, guys, and you don't know confidently how to apply this, book a call with our team below today. Set up yourself for an entirety of your life, the rest of your life. We do this for 6-month sprints, but also a lifetime within the academy. And we help you one-on-one apply this to your situation and make you feel good about your finances. Because that's what this is about. Let's feel good about our finances. Let's not hide. Let's not put our face in the sand. Let's not hide from our fears. Let's address the problem, which is getting our finances in order and living the life that we deserve. That's what we want to do. We don't want to take away. We want to make your life abundant. And that's what we're here to do with you. So apply below, guys, and I will see everybody next week.
You've been listening to Money on My Mind with your host, Brendan Schlagbaum. If you found value in today's discussion, share it with someone who could benefit from it too. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, so you never miss a money mastery tip. Until next time, stay passionate about your financial journey and keep taking bold steps towards your money goals.